Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Nebula class starship. So, this is a heavy class explorer. We do have the USS Phoenix, which is active, and there's 49 others that have been built. 23, unfortunately, have been lost in all. Um, this was commissioned in 2355. We have a length of 442 meters, a beam of 318 meters, a height of 108 meters, and this gives us about 32 decks. So the ship's coming in at about 3,502,000 metric tons with a crew of 720. This is really a. I got a kitty cat trying to attack me here. Um, uh, really, the counterpart to the Galaxy class. So, really, to look at it in that regard, um, and for the most part, I believe it's fairly comparable to the Galaxy class. So, as we get through the rest of the stats here, as I'm trying to make sure my cat's not attacking things here on my computer desk. All right. Going on, we do have that crew of 720 with a 9,800 person evacuation limit. Armament, we have 8 Type 10 phaser arrays, 2 Type 3 burst fire photon torpedo tubes with 180 rounds. Um, we do have a normal cruise speed of warp 6. Maximum warp is going to be 9, and our max rated is 9.4 for 12 hours. And comparing this to our Galaxy class, which is always at a 1,000, we do have beam firepower is 650. Our torpedo firepower is 1,000, so same as what the Galaxy class has. Weapon range and accuracy is 820, and shield strength is at 800. Our hull armor is 1,000, the same as what we have in our Galaxy class. Our speed is 917, and combat maneuverability is 1,500. So, really, so many things have been borrowed from the Galaxy class, but it's the you want to call it the engineering section and the capabilities thereof are what make it a little different here. Our overall strength index for Daystroms here is at 814 or 841. Our diplomatic capacity is a 7, and our expected whole life is 100 years. Now, a refit cycle for minor and standard is 1 year, and a major is every 20 years. Okay, so the Nebula class was fielded in 2350s to provide a smaller, more numerous counterpart to the Galaxy class then under construction. The design was intended to parallel that of the Galaxy class as closely as possible in order to allow for many identical systems to be installed on both classes. This has resulted in significant improvements in the design and construction processes of the Nebula class and thus allowed comparatively high numbers to be fielded. Compared to the Galaxy class, the Nebula has more compact shape. The engineering hull is mounted directly to the underside of the saucer section, a measure which saves some 200 meters in length. The major difference in capability is the addition of the prominent housing aft of the saucer section of the Nebula class. This enables the vessel to carry any one of a variety of special equipment pods. Current models include high capacity sensor pod, an enhanced weapons pod, a colony transport pod, an emergency field hospital unit, or a science laboratory pod. Although the basic Nebula design has approximately 80% of the capability of the Galaxy class vessel in most areas, the addition of the mission pod brings that figure up to 95% or more in the specified area. This flexibility actually allows the Nebula design to accomplish almost identical missions despite its smaller size. In service, the Nebula class has proved highly satisfactory And in many ways, these ships form the backbone of Starfleet's exploratory and scientific programs. Like the Galaxy class, they have received regular upgrades to their systems, most notably a new warp core design. With the advent of the threats from the Romulan, Dominion, and Borg, Starfleet invested in 67 new enhanced weapon pods for the Nebula class. Most of the vessels now carry this as a standard item. The pod carries 8 standard torpedo tubes and a stock of 300 casings, approximately doubling the ship's overall rate of fire. Uh, the nice design was, as we try to get to some of the images, and what we're talking about is our top pod here. And one pod that was not listed that has been listed in some of the role playing games is a essentially a hangar pod, as more or less making this an aircraft carrier, or a shuttle carrier, if you want to call it that. Uh, just being able to expand what it can do. Now, if I remember correctly, this had always looked like it was the same saucer section that we had on the Galaxy class. It's just that the engineering section was redone, so you could actually more or less swap out the saucer section with either a Galaxy or another um, Nebula class. So I've always kind of liked this design. I thought this made a better representation for the top pod mount system that we first got to see with the Miranda class. To me, I always thought it was kind of lacking as to how we were getting people up on the roll bar. When we look at the roll bar, it looks, and I know that they've always kind of put in there having enough room uh, for the elevator system, uh, but it always just seemed like it just wasn't quite big enough. So that's always been my take on it. Now, obviously, in our plans, I'm proven wrong. So I mean, it doesn't really matter. But to me, it's always I want something that looks like it can actually handle our elevator system in Star Trek. There, um, you know, that's always been my take. So, with that, let's get into our D6 stats and see what we have from D6 Holocron. All right, so looking at the Nebula class here itself, um, now this is a cruiser, capital scale. We have the length recorded here from D6 Holocron here at 442 meters, a width of 318 meters, and a height of 130. So I believe this differs a little bit from what we had on Daystrom. They have a ship mass of 3,309 metric or 309,000 metric tons. Starship size is 7. We do have an autopilot of 3D plus 2, so quite a bit better than our galactic standard. We do have the crew rated at 750. We can run this with a crew of 75 with a plus 10 bonus. And most notably, I will say, because we've seen it in the next generation where you can have one person or possibly even two, but the computer is assisting. So, yeah, it might be a little bit difficult, but you could still run it that way, at least for a short duration. The biggest problem comes into uh, really trying to do all the engineering side, trying to maintain everything, and I think that's our biggest issues here. Automation wise, I think we're able to run it for a while, but trying to keep all the systems up and operating at peak capacity, I think it takes that crew there to be able to do that. All right, so we do have passengers of 130. Cargo capacity is 200,000 metric tons. Consumables for 3 years. Now, we have listed here a warp drive. Our standard cruising warp is 6, our maximum cruise is 9, and they have listed a 9.9 for 12 hours, which I do believe is a little bit faster than what Daystrom has reported for us. But this is more from Memory Alpha. And whenever we get information from a couple different sources, everyone's going to have it a little different. And I always recognize that. Of course, we're going to have our nav computer here. We do have a maneuverability of 1D. Um, our space speed, so if we're doing this in a role playing game sense, which is what this is all about, is a 9.2. Our whole uh, whole strength is a 4D plus 2 with a shields of 3D. Our sensor packet here, we have passive scanning going out to 6 kilometers with a plus 2D. Our active scan going out to 13 kilometers with a 2D plus 2. We can do an active search out to 17 kilometers at a 3D plus 2 and a focus out to 500 meters at a 4D plus 1. We do have listed two Type 10 phaser arrays. Now, this is ventral and dorsal um arrays, being 405 degrees on each side. Let's see, fire control is 2D. We do have a rate of fire of 5 and damage is 4D. We also have a Type 10 phaser array. Now, this is for our engineering. Um, Sitting on the back, and I believe that runs the length up and down there. Um, let's see, that's a 360-degree ventral. Uh, Fire control is 2D, rate of fire is 2, and damage is 4D. Uh, we have 6 Type 10 phaser arrays. Now, this is on our pylons. Um, see, we have three 360 aft, a 360 starboard, 360 port, 360 forward. So, being on the pylons, engineering, sensor pod, and sensor pod forward. Let's see. These are going to have a rate of fire of 1 and a damage of 4D. We do have the 3 photon torpedo launchers. 2 are forward, 1 is aft. These are also self guided. With fire control of 2D, we can do a spread of 10 torpedoes per launch with a damage of 4D each torpedo, and she's carrying about 200 Type 2 photon torpedoes on board. We do have 2 Class Delta tractor beams, 1 forward and 1 aft, for towing whatever we need to tow. Fire control is 2D and a strength of 4D plus 1. And of course, then we're going to have our tractor beam for our shuttle bay. Fire control is 1D plus 1, and a strength is 3D. Now, we do have 700 basic quarters. We have 200 expanded quarters, 50 luxury quarters, and 20 unusual quarters. We also have 28 decks on this ship. We do have 160 escape pods with 8 personnel uh, being able to fit in each escape pod. This was commissioned in 2357 by Earth Reckoning. We have 4 transporters for a 6-person capacity on each one. We have 4 emergency transporters with a capacity of 22 personnel, and 4 cargo transporters for 400 kilograms on each transporter. Um, our shuttlecraft complement. Now, this is our standard. This doesn't take in any regards the pods that can be mounted on there. Same thing with all the other stuff, because if you have a better sensor pod, you can increase your sensors much greater than what we have. Our complement for shuttles are 12. We do have 6 shuttle pods, 100 probes, and of course, there's going to be a captain's yacht of the um, Galaxy class of variety. So, from D6 Holocron, the Nebula class was a Federation starship used by the Starfleet in 24th century. Officially designed as an explorer, the Nebula ships were also sometimes referred to as cruisers. This class is named for spectacular um, galactic gas clouds known as nebulae. DS9 reference, Deep Space Nine,
Here's
uh,
a first alert weather
tactical or technical manual, Last Unicorn Games. See, and they're using that stuff as well. The Price of Freedom, Decipher, RPG modules, Starfleet Operation Manual, Starships. And it's great to see that everyone else is grabbing from some of the same places I like to grab my information too, because it gives us a nice wide range of information. And quite often, it is hard to find all this information in one spot until people go from one to another to another. We do have technical data. The Nebula class is well known for being a test bed of modular components, with the vessel's upper outboard structures varying from vessel to vessel. Several configurations, including a tactical pod, sensor pod, cargo pod, and probe pod, has been fielded by the 2380s. During the Dominion War, of course, the most common variant was the tactical configuration. And that comes to us from the Star Trek reference, Starship Spotter. And of course, they're getting a lot of their information from Memory Alpha and Memory Beta, as well as the books listed above. So, um, we still have a lot more ships to go through on from D6 Holocron. I am working on some ships, kind of from the lower decks series, uh, but that will take some time. So I will keep working on some of these for a little while. But as I get them, I will throw those in uh, here and there as I can get stats done and try and figure things out, because just like what they have done here, being able to compile everything together, some of this stuff is speculative, like what we see on Daystrom. So it's your own kind of take on what this is. Some of it we do have some actual information from the shows, the movies, or additional books. And then there's just other things that we just have to search here and there and try and see what someone else has made a comment from the production staff or whatever else. So it does unfortunately take a little bit of time in order to do this, but it is just the fun things of being a DM and always trying to create the fun stuff to be able to add to our games. So with that being said, thank you so very much for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.